Welcome back to the Road to Life podcast. Bennett and McKay.
We're so glad you're here.
Today we're talking about coachability, the importance of it, and there's a fine balance.
Well, we've learned that. I think we're both highly coachable. I think we've been told that by coaches, and we've learned that ourselves. We're very coachable people.
Yes, it was a badge of growing up. I played a lot of sports, and something I was taught early on is to be coachable, which is a good thing. You want to be someone who retains and listens and absorb it, and then produce.
Yeah,
Produce
you have a
result.
coach for a reason, right?
Totally.
The coach is there to direct you and make you better.
Totally. And so I think from an early age, I understood that being coachable was fantastic. It's a great skill.
Great quality to have in a young athlete, for sure.
Exactly. I think though, as I grew older, it almost became so much a part of my identity that I sometimes didn't question always what was being coached to me, or what was being taught, or what was being provided for me as far as information. I would just take it and run with it and not take that extra second or minute to really think about what that information is, and does it apply to me, and how does it apply to me, and is it what I want? Is it what I'm trying to do? I would just take the information and run with it
And
to my detriment.
yeah,
in
and
some
I
cases.
was the same, right? I grew up playing sports, so I always had coaches. I always listened to my coaches, and also I was an enormous people pleaser, and so that also feeds into wanting to be the best student, right? You tell me what to do, and I'm gonna do it, like, to the letter, like, done.
Yeah.
Consider it done.
Yeah.
And it's only been really recently that I've come to realize that the coach is there to provide you advice on how they know to get the result you want.
Yeah.
So whether that's a young hockey player wanting to win games, or that's an entrepreneur trying to build a business, the coach is there to provide you direction and advice on what they know to be the best strategy for you to win, or for you to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
And it's only been really lately that I realized that that's their strategy and they've had success. So take that in and evaluate that. And how does that line up with my values, my purpose, my approach, what makes me unique? And so that's something I think that we've just recently realized, that there's a coachability line, that you can be too coachable. And you're too coachable, like, to your point, when whatever is said, you take that and you go do it.
Without question.
Without question. I think the important piece that we missed for a while was the question, like that little internal assessment. Does this make sense to me?
Yeah. Given my experiences growing up in sports, when we went out into entrepreneurship, hired coaches, and were given this information, yeah, my default was, okay, they say, go do this, I go do this.
Yeah.
And it got us into some trouble sometimes. It got us, like, we started that business. We've talked about it on several episodes, that we started a business, with the advice of a coach, and it did not go well. It was not for us. That was his game plan. That was his.
It worked really well for him
At a different time,
in a different place.
for a different person. And for us, that just wasn't. And then, we got into that, and we were miserable.
We
and
got
unhappy,
into it
and it set us
because
back.
we got into it because we didn't take the time to say, does this make sense for us as who we are as individuals? Does it make sense for where we are? Do the numbers make sense? We didn't do that sort of critical self-evaluation. It was input, immediate output.
Yeah.
And it got us into some trouble.
But it set us back. Like, it actually ended up taking us longer to get where we wanted to go, because we were too coachable. We were listening to advice that wasn't for us. Well-meaning.
For sure.
No
For
question,
sure.
well-meaning, but we didn't participate in our own,
Game planning.
in our own experience. We sort of opted out of part of it.
Well, it was like we took their yellow binder and started to just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. We opted out a little bit of some of our responsibility, and it got us into a little bit of trouble. So it's weird for, a couple coaches to say to someone, "Don't be so coachable." But there's the sweet spot, there's
Mhm.
the not coachable enough,
Not coachable is not going to work.
then there's the, like, sweet spot of perfect coachability, like,
Yeah.
take it, internalize it,
Mhm.
evaluate it for you, and then execute on what, you know,
Makes sense.
lands for you.
Yeah.
And then there's the too coachable, question nothing, do everything.
Yeah. That was us.
Yeah. And it gets you into trouble for a different reason than the
Mhm.
other side. So
Yeah.
I think there's that sweet spot in the middle that
It kind of reminds me of back in our corporate life. We worked in health and safety, both of us. And one of the inputs to health and safety, one of the advisors to health and safety was legal. In both of our jobs, we worked a lot with the legal team. Their job, in theory, was to provide advice that our department would then take into account and decide what they were going to do. Ultimately, we were accountable. The department was accountable to make their own decisions and take whatever actions they deemed necessary. However, we treated legal more like the decision makers. Whatever they said, we did. And that it was the same thing for us with coaching. Whatever coaches said, we did. We didn't take a step back, just like EHS didn't take a step back and say, this is one input. Let's evaluate that with everything else that's going on. They didn't do that. Whatever legal said, went. And with us, whatever the coach said, went. We did not take a minute and evaluate. And it got us into trouble a second time. Well, it got into trouble several times. But the other time
that's another important lesson. I think that
that
is
we missed.
the universe will seek to teach you the same lesson over and over and over until you get it.
Mhm.
And so
So
we
we
finally
learned
did
it
eventually
a
get it, but we
couple of
haven't.
times.
We had to learn to see.
Yeah. The time that we finally learned it, I guess, is fairly recently. And it was like we sort of lost our own voice. We lost who we were, what made us different, unique, and special in the just taking in of how we need to do things, how we need to say things, how we need to write things, how we need to execute things. We just did what we were told. And we lost a little bit of what made us in
Mhm.
that process.
Yeah, totally.
And so, yeah, I think it's probably weird for two coaches to tell people,
Don't be so coachable.
don't be so coachable.
I, I guess where what we're saying is we want you to participate
Hmm.
in your own adventure.
Hmm.
We've said it before. Life is a choose your own adventure. Don't opt out of your responsibility. You get a coach and they're there to advise you, but really ultimately the accountability is with you. It starts and ends with you. No one has as much skin in the game, in your game, as you do.
Yeah,
So
nobody.
don't opt out. Opt in and participate and play full out and get a coach because it supercharges your results.
For sure. Super speed, too. Like,
Yeah, but check in and question and respectfully, if something doesn't land well for you, talk about it,
mhm,
but opt into your responsibility. It is your life, it is your marriage, it is your business. Everything is your responsibility.
mhm,
So hire the coach, but ask questions and
mhm,
participate.
mhm. Because the other thing that, to your point, it's your responsibility. No one has more skin in the game than you do.
Yeah.
And you see people all the time hire a coach and then still go about and do it their own way.
Yeah.
So like
That's the
that's
opposite.
the opposite end of the spectrum. Like you're paying money, you're hiring a coach because you want to supercharge your result, because you want to go faster, because you want to get where you want to be the most efficient way possible. Then you hire a coach and then you don't listen to them at all. And so what was the point?
Yep.
So
You just wasted it.
you are ultimately accountable, but understanding what you're doing and why you hired the coach for their expertise, for their help. So take it, but also ask questions and apply what works for you. Talk it through with the coach and then move forward. Don't just blindly ignore the coach and don't just blindly follow everything from the coach. There's this, you know, sweet spot in the middle where you're going to be most effective and get where you want to go fastest.
Exactly. So find the sweet spot, stay in the sweet spot, and
Where we always want to be.
exactly. And you will
Go to
fly.
the moon. Be coachable, but don't be too coachable. We'll see you on the next episode.